right. I think this is John Robillard speaking, and it's 12 o'clock. I think we should start, and I will call the meeting to order. And before starting, however, I think I will do a roll call to make sure that, one, we have a quorum, and I will call the name of every person I have on the committee, and please just acknowledge that you are present on the phone. Bruce Rastetter.
Yep, present.
Katie Mulholland.
Present.
Milt Dakovich.
Present.
Sarah Gardiel.
Present.
Alex Thomas.
Present.
Christina Bohannon. Christina. Okay, she's not there yet. Gigi Durham. Lena Hill.
Present.
Dorothy Johnson. Ali Salem.
Present. Christina, Gigi, and Dorothy are going to be together in one room, so I expect they will all come on together.
Oh, okay. Larry Weber. Katie Zaharis.
Here.
Jerry Stead.
Hello?
Yes. Hello, who's there?
This is Christina, and I have Gigi Durham with me and Dorothy Johnson. So three of us are calling in on the same phone.
Great. And then Jerry Stead, I don't think is present. Jeff Cotter told me that he will not be available. And Peter Jeffrey.
I'm here.
Chuck Whelan. Wheeler. Patrick Bartosky. And Elisa Billmeyer, Mary Kramer, and Larry Beatty.
Here.
Larry is there, great.
Yep.
Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15 with me. Then we have a quorum to start the meeting. And the first thing I think we have as order is approval of the minute of our previous meeting. Any change to the minute at this time? If not, I will need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And okay, then we have the minute approved. And with this, I will ask Laurie Wilder or Portia to take over the meeting.
Thank you so much. This is Laurie, and I appreciate you all joining us. I know we're about to have a great holiday weekend, so I thank you for carving out some time for a quick update as it relates to this presidential search. And so what I'd like to do is just give you a little bit of feedback as to what's been accomplished to date, talk to you a little bit about search update, what we're hearing in the marketplace, as well as what the numbers are looking out right now. And then talk about going forward and the next steps in this process and answer any questions that you might have. So please feel free to ask those as we go along. Just as it relates to what has been accomplished since our last call-in, our last meeting, we have been aggressively in the market. That started with advertising. Advertising was conducted in various publications. Chronicle of Higher Education, Diverse Issues in Higher Education, Women in Higher Education, Hispanic Outlook, The Economist, Forbes Magazine, Leiter's Law School Report, Leiter's Report. It's on your website at the University of Iowa, and it's on our website as well. Those publications began, and really June 29th was the majority of those. The Economist was a little earlier in June, and then the Leiter's reports were in early June as well. So we're beginning to get some feedback from those advertising venues. but at this point, that has been conducted. As we've talked about all along, that's an important part of the process, but the real work is identifying and targeting potential leaders that may have an interest in this opportunity. We talked a little in our first meeting about how we go about doing that. What we have done is put together a list of probably 500 plus individuals. We try to take two types of approaches. One is who are the best leaders out there in the country on a broad scale, and then we go very specific on those individuals that, again, may need even more enticement and recruitment. So we've looked at leaders at AAU universities, at top public research universities. We've looked at private. We've looked at smaller universities, comprehensive universities, where we may be able to entice a sitting president. Our list of names includes presidents, chancellors. It includes provosts and vice presidents of academic affairs. It includes deans of many of the major colleges of the universities, as well as vice presidents that range from vice presidents of research to vice presidents of economic development. We have also made a conscious decision based on our conversations to look for those individuals that may be considered non-traditional, meaning they come from outside of the academy or have some relationship to higher education but may not be sitting on a college campus today. Again, that number has been 500 plus. We have made direct phone calls to those individuals to really look for interest, personal interest, to solicit their own interest to talk about the opportunity. If that does not work, we very quickly turn them into sources. We have talked to many leaders in higher education as sources for this search to say, who do you think is the best and the brightest out there that may have an interest in this opportunity? That has been a very aggressive approach. I will also tell you we have had a tremendous number of nominations. Today, it sits at approximately 115 individuals have been recommended or nominated for the position. I will emphasize that does not mean that they all have received letters. Some of that is us making phone calls and saying, hey, you need to talk to this person or that person. We've had great support there on your campus from faculty and staff and administration as to recommendations. And our process with recommendations is to contact every single one of those to solicit whether or not they may have an interest and to talk to those. And we have done just that. Some of those nominees have declined to be a candidate. Others are in the process of considering it, and others have already indicated that they will submit their materials. What we have heard in the market committee has been very positive. And I'm going to give you some feedback from that regard. We've talked a lot of people who talk about the University of Iowa as one of the elite institutions in the country historically. They talk about it as it relates to the grandness of the university, the scope and scale of the university, and quite frankly, the reputation on a national basis of the faculty and students and staff associated with the University of Iowa. That is all very positive. We've talked a great deal to potential candidates about the upside potential, and that this was a university that really was hungry for leadership and was looking to move the needle as it relates to innovation, as it relates to education of students and quality of the faculty. That is exciting to many people, and that has been one of the real pushes for most candidates is the unlimited upside potential of this opportunity. We have also had candidates that have asked questions. There have been questions as it relates to fiscal issues. That's a pretty standard question when you're conducting a public research university presidential search. There have been questions about budgets and reallocation proposal. There have been questions as it relates to, really what is that upside. There's been your standard questions as it relates to the relationship with the board and the relationship of the University of Iowa in the state of Iowa. Some individuals have discussed that there is clear from some metrics that the University of Iowa needs to continue to move forward, and that they've got to be creative in that approach. The real issues that we've heard or questions have been, again, associated with fiscal issues and motivation of the on-campus community to continue to grow from a standpoint of the metrics that you would look at for success for a university. There have been some questions as it relates to the process. There are those individuals who are very cognizant that they cannot be seen in a public search where candidates will visit campus, and they make that very clear early on. We have talked about the importance of that and the fact that the speed of that will be very quick, so there would not be a large amount of public exposure before a decision was made, and in many cases, that has helped greatly with these candidates. There are those candidates that just absolutely cannot engage in that part of the process. And so where we are right now through those efforts is that there are currently 11 individuals who have officially applied for the position, so they have sent their material to us. We have 45 individuals that we've talked to who are in the process of considering it. So they are doing their own level of due diligence. We've provided them with additional information and will continue to do that. And then there are 16 individuals who have indicated to us they will submit their material. So they have done their due diligence, they're excited about the position, and they will formally submit the material. I will say to you that many of those individuals in those two categories of considering and will submit are not going to do that until the very last moment. They are concerned about confidentiality. It is not that they do not trust you, they just do not know you. And so they are concerned and would much rather put that information in as a formal application and a formal letter of interest towards the end of the process. And so where we stand right now, the number, some may be concerned about 11 official applicants. That does not concern us. Many of those, not all, many of those have responded to advertising. And so that is a standard process at this point in this search. What we are excited about is the fact that we have 16 individuals who, again, have said they will submit, and we have many individuals who are considering the opportunity. We are making calls, quite frankly, every 15 minutes, it seems like. I had one right before this call started of an outstanding candidate who I think will commit to the process. We are going to need to engage many of you. We're going to go through the search chair, and we talked to him earlier this week about that because we're getting to crunch time, where we are going to need some support of those individuals there on campus, on this committee, to engage in the recruiting process with candidates. And so as we continue to move forward, you can expect that we may ask you to do that as well. So what I'd like to do there is just stop. I know we give you a lot of information, and answer any questions that you might have.
Please feel free to ask questions to Laurie. One thing, Laurie, is, in fact, you have about 27 candidates, those who have sent their material, and 16 who will submit. But we really still in the middle of very active recruitment of candidates, isn't it?
It is absolutely the case. This is the part of the search process where those candidates that we've talked to have to make those decisions. We have talked to them, and we're going to talk in just a moment about the next steps in the process and timing. But they know the timing. We're very clear with individuals about here's when the committee is going to review material, here's when they're going to make selections and interviews, and so they understand that. I think you're exactly right. If you talk about those 16 that will submit, we're sitting here at about 27. Our goal in presidential searches is not about quantity of candidates, it's very much about the quality. We'd like to be in a position where you as a search committee have an opportunity to vet a strong quality pool of candidates. Again, that number typically is somewhere in the 8 more or less range that you'll instantly invite for first round interviews. So, this is the time where it really all begins. The end of the semester for many universities was tough to connect with people, but we're really on a roll right now, quite frankly.
Any question for Lori?
Lori, this is Sarah Guardial. One of the questions that I get is how many people that will lose because of the need for them to come to campus, and there are going to be some of those. I guess I'm just wondering how much you're sensing that is impacting the pool. You said that some had said that they can't risk any exposure whatsoever, but what's the percent of people that you're talking to that have that concern?
The majority of those individuals that have that concern are typically individuals who are presidents or chancellors at other universities. They are in the role today, and they would be hurt dramatically. That does not mean that we do not see some candidates, especially at what I would call the dean level, associated with professional schools and large colleges within a university, because those are so heavily dominated in fundraising. And that's the piece that becomes an issue, that they are engaged in active fundraising on their campuses. It's very hard to be exposed, interested in another opportunity. If by chance you don't get it, you have to go back and say, I'm really happy here, and that's a harder sell. The percentage is a hard one for us to give from that standpoint, because sometimes for other reasons. Right now in this market, because of the way this process has unfolded or will unfold, there is such a limited amount of public exposure that it has not been as much a concern as if, like you see on some universities, where the final candidates come over a 2 and 3 week period of time, and then they have to go back a week later to 2 weeks later to meet with the board. You all have created a process that is going to nullify some of that. I will also tell you that some people say it is process when it really isn't process and openness of the process. It's other reasons, and it's just a good way to say it to us. So, if I thought that you were losing a vast majority of outstanding candidates, I probably would be saying something very different on this phone. I know how important it is to the faculty and staff and students to engage with the candidates, and so, there are pros and cons and trade-offs. But right now, I do not think that it is having a massive impact. It is it's 1 or 2 here or there. And again, I'm not sure at the end of the day, they would have committed regardless of process.
Thank you.
But, Lori, this is Bruce Rasted as a follow-up to Sarah's question. It sounds like you can get people comfortable that the committee will maintain confidentiality. Is that an accurate reflection of not losing candidates in that process?
Absolutely, and we would address that with every candidate, that this has been a committee that is passionate about this search, that takes it very, very seriously, and that the only candidates that will ultimately have public exposure are those candidates that are invited as finalists to campus. So that has not been a concern at all as it relates to the early stages of that. But the concern, obviously, is that they will come to campus and meet with different constituency groups, and the risk associated with that. One of the things I will tell you is that we are kind of known in the market as a firm where we say what we mean. We're very honest with candidates. We express that, and they trust us. And so we don't use candidates. We don't do those types of things. And so when we say to them, look, we're going to let you know where you stand. We're not going to hurt you in this process unless you have a real opportunity to get this job. You're not going to be exposed. And so that's one of the things that, just our reputation, and we pride ourselves, and that has not been an issue, Bruce.
Okay. So I guess as we think about a broad-based committee such as what we have, I guess one of the committee goals, and I think the Regent's goals, is to get the best possible president that we can attract. And I appreciate you keeping the board, the committee informed on, some of the challenges of getting those people part of that public exposure. And I think it's really important that we continue to look at that as we get down to our deadline, because we ideally we'd want all of those candidates to apply and not have someone that would be a great president not apply because of that public part. So I think it's important for all of us to hear that in a very open, honest way from you, so we have the best result here.
Absolutely. And we'll let you know of that on a case-by-case basis as we move forward. What we have said to candidates that have, or potential candidates that have been the most concerned about that is, look at the process that we have here. We can slot you, on the very last day so that your exposure is literally very quick, because you're going to see, on-campus visits, and then you're going to, go in front of the board the following day, and then a decision will, be able to be made. So we're able to do that, whereas we're not in others. Now, there will be things as we move forward that we all have to think about. I know there's a real desire to announce all 3 candidates. There may come a time where you have to announce the candidates, a day before each one shows up, so that you can protect them early on. There are little things that we can do from a process standpoint without jeopardizing what has been committed to, and we'll work through that as it unfolds. What is most important is that we have a thorough process, but at the end of the day, outcome really does matter here. And so we won't let you lose a candidate in this search process because of that without saying here's what it is and let's make those decisions.
So, Lori, this is Christina Bohannon. Just to follow up and to be extra clear, as you said, process is very important. Faculty, staff, and students really want to have that engagement on campus if at all possible, and, it's something that, we've talked a lot about. On the other hand, I think I hear you're saying that if there are candidates, really, really good candidates, who we might lose because of this process, does that mean that you would come forward to the committee and let us know about those candidates?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All we can do is to talk about what the process is. You all can make those decisions. So if we get to really that end game and someone says to us, I'm afraid I can't commit because I just can't do that, we're going to let you know that, and you can tell us how you'd like to handle that from that standpoint.
Okay, great. Perfect.
This is Jean Robillard here. Laurie, will you be able to let us know this in some sort of a early fashion and not just at the last minute?
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't have necessarily a timeline on this, but the earlier we know that, the better it is in that respect.
Absolutely. And, I anticipate committee that there are a couple of individuals that are in that considering opportunity category where this will be an issue for them. And so what I typically do is, Jean, I would go to you as the chair of the committee and say, okay, here's where we are. I will be calling you soon too, Jean, about a candidate, a potential candidate I talked to today that I need you to make a phone call to for me because that's what they would like. And that candidate may have an issue with the confidentiality at the very end or the open exposure. So, yeah, I'm going to do it on a very piecemeal approach. We won't walk in and say you lost these 5 candidates because of process. You'll know very early on, and then you can make decisions.
Good. Other questions?
This is Christina Bohannon again. Sorry, I did have one other question. Lori, could you I think just expand a little bit on something you said a minute ago, that you mentioned that one of the questions you get from some of these candidates has to do, I think you said it's something like whether the campus community is prepared to move forward and do what's needed as a university. Can you expand on that at all, or give any examples of what you're hearing about that?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. I would tell you that as we reach out to candidates, one of the things they really want to talk about is what's the culture, what's the environment coming into this role. So if I was to become the president, what am I going to walk into and face? And so is this a university community, and I use that in the broadest sense, that really is going to get behind and supportive of a new president? We all know, you all know, that there's sometimes where, that's not the case. And a new president doesn't get instant support and isn't getting that from a large group for other reasons outside of the candidate. And so there is that question. And I have been able to articulate to these candidates that, I've talked to many, many people. I've talked to, obviously, all of you and others at the university, and I've been able to say, I get the impression that they're hungry for that. They really do want someone to come in who believes in, shared governance, who believes in moving forward forward and not status quo. Unfortunately, right now in higher education, there are those positions that really are about trying to keep the train running on time, and it isn't necessarily about innovation and growth and prosperity for the university. So that's what I'm referring to. We've had a number of individuals, and quite frankly, candidates that don't ask that worry me a little bit. And I think that we've been able to tell them, everybody who's met, from board members to staff to students to faculty to alums, have indicated that's what they want. They're hungry for it.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Pete Jeffries. Talking about the candidate pool, and I think it's a nice segue from that subject area that you just discussed. My expectation or speculation is that most of those who have probably come forward to date or who have been recommended, particularly by the campus community, are from academia in some fashion or form. How is it looking? Can you put a percentage on it, or numbers, or how is it looking in what I'll call the non-traditional leader role coming to the table?
You know, that number is always going to be relatively small, and so your assumption is right from the standpoint of the majority of candidates that are recommended from the academy are individuals from the academy in some way. Could be administration, it could be academic leadership in a lot of different ways. So when we talk about non-traditional, that is never a component of the process where there's a large percentage. It comes down to can you really find 2 or 3 of those individuals that would give you as a committee an opportunity to vet them. And so there are those that we're talking to that, again, come from more of a corporate background. I do believe in a lot of ways that they need to have some synergy or some expectation of understanding an academic environment. That may mean they were a professor or an adjunct professor or an executive professor. It may mean they were on a board. It may mean that they, are very active in advisory council, whatever college they may have graduated from. And so there's typically some level of connection. There's a reason, there's a passion to move from that arena that they're successful in to this arena. And so we look for that. But that number, again, that's going to be less than a handful of individuals because, again, you don't typically just find people who wake up and say, this is what I want to do. They have to have some level of connection. It also includes, and we've been, investigating and looking for those candidates that may come from government. So they're not necessarily associated with the universities, but they have exposure there as well. So, at the end of the day, it's going to be less than a handful of those people that you'll have an opportunity to see. Now, there occasionally will be, and I think we may have that now, a candidate or two that submits their materials blindly that come from a more non-traditional profile, but those aren't typically the ones that you ultimately would consider at the end.
So as of today's conversation, where are we, if you will, in that type of a candidate pool? Is it in the 1 to 2 to 3 people range?
Yeah, there's 2 individuals that are highly considering it that I would consider in that category. There's 1 individual that I am comfortable will ultimately submit their material that comes from that, and we actually have 1 individual that has submitted, that we've had multiple conversations with as well, and went ahead and submitted material. So, we're talking end up when I think will be is probably 2 or 3.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, Christina, again, I'm sorry, just to clarify what you just said, when you say that you think that there will ultimately be 2 or 3 in that category, you're talking about non-traditional candidates but who have a connection to higher ed, so you're talking about the more favorable category, not the category of people who kind of have no connection whatsoever.
I am.
Okay.
The category that would say they have had stellar careers in a corporate or government environment, but they also have shown some exposure at some point to higher education.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Lori? I think it was very, very good discussion and quite informative. I think, Lori, you may want to talk about the next steps.
I do. That would be great. First next step is that this afternoon, you as a search committee will have access on the secure website to what, again, is called a candidate status log, and it is a document that really incorporates all candidates that have been officially recommended. Again, it's like name, rank, and serial number, and then on the right side of the page, it'll tell you where we are in the process with them. It also includes those individuals who have officially submitted their materials for consideration. Those individuals, just for ease, are in blue, so you'll see there they are in blue. It also includes those individuals who have declined to be a candidate. So they may have been nominated, or we may have gone after them directly, and they have declined to be a candidate. What it does not include is that large 500-plus number that we talked about earlier, and it's basically, as we do that, if they decline or they have an interest, then we move them onto this candidate status log. So you'll be able to see that. I want you as a committee to pay attention to that. If there is someone on that list that you know, and you want to reach out and pick up the phone and call us and say, hey, I know this person. Where do you stand exactly? What are their concerns? How can I help? Please do not hesitate to do that. That is important. The only thing I would say to you, not necessarily to do without letting us know, is to pick up the phone and call those individuals, because we may be in a conversation that is quick comments on the candidate status log, but we may have long conversations. I just don't want us to overlap. And so if you really feel like you want to make a call or two to a potential candidate that is not submitted, then just let us know so that we can all make sure that it's a seamless process for the candidates. And so you'll have access to that on the secure site this afternoon. We also are having really weekly, every 10-day calls with the chair going forward for the very reason that I talked about earlier, associated with the need to have individuals make some phone calls to really get candidates over the threshold in some cases. We also, our next update call is July 30th. It's from 1 to 2 Central Time. One of the things that your chair asked us on our last kind of update with him, in conversation with him, was could we present or put on the secure site candidate information, so letters and CVs and things, prior to the original date, which was scheduled for July 31st. We do not have a problem with doing that, so what we've done is we're going to up that by a week. So on July 24th, you will be able to go on the site and access candidate materials. So anyone that submitted their materials to date, you will have access to that. I want to emphasize one piece of that. We have already talked to candidates about really that July 31st date. So there will be candidates that will develop or present their materials in that week overlap. So we're going to alert you on the 24th, but we're going to alert you again on the 31st to go back and look, because there will be new candidates. So I don't want you on the 24th to review those materials and say, hey, where are some of those candidates? I will tell you right now, they all know the 31st was the day that you were originally going to get access to their material, and they will submit it. Most of them will submit it very late, and most likely on the 30th. And so we have no problem giving you what we have on the 24th, but just know there will be more. The call on the 30th will be a call that really is more about process on how you evaluate candidates, how the website works, those types of things. And then the really key important meeting will be August 4th from 3 to 5 Central, and that's the meeting where this committee will come together. We will be there with you to make your decisions as to who you would like to bring in for initial interviews. That's a meeting where you can ask us any question. Some of the information that we have, we can't necessarily put in writing, but we will share it with you verbally, and I think that's an important component. And then we are still scheduled for airport interviews on the 11th and 12th of August in Chicago, and campus interviews August 31st through September 3rd, and Board of Regent interviews on September 4th. So really all the fun begins 1st of August, and then we move very aggressively from that standpoint. So any questions about candidate status log, or any questions about kind of what the next steps are?
Any questions for Lori?
Hey, Lori, Christina here. So I really appreciate John's suggestion of getting these things earlier, getting the information earlier. I think that's really going to help a lot. So I appreciate your acting on that. The other thing I just wanted to put out there, though, is I'm wondering whether the 2-hour meeting, whether we think that's going to be sufficient to be able to, kind of sift through all of these materials with such a large committee and really get down to the 8 to 12 or so that we need.
And that's a question we get every time, and I appreciate you for asking it. Let me just kind of give you a quick rundown of how the site will work once you start to review candidate material. What it allows you as an individual committee member, because we really believe strongly that first members of this committee should individually review these materials. They're based on that. And so what it will allow you to do is, number one, it will allow you to write any comments that you have. Those comments will only be seen by you. Our team has access to it just from an IT perspective, but they are your comments. The rest of the committee cannot see what you write. But it allows you to write comments, but also to put candidates in 3 categories. The first category is really, I like everything I see on this resume, and I want to interview this person. The second category is, I want to learn more. So I want to talk to my committee. I want to talk to the consultant and learn more. And the third is, I really don't have an interest in this candidate at all. By each member of the committee doing that prior to the meeting on the 4th, what we do when we come to the room is we take the totality of those votes. And I will say to you, 95% of the time, how it unfolds is there are 3 or so candidates that really are the vast majority of your committee have absolutely want to interview them. And then there's about 10 to 15 candidates that are in a bucket that says of the vast majority of your committee either wants to interview them or wants to talk more about them. And then, quite frankly, the vast majority of your committee has no interest in the rest of the candidates. And that's why I always talk about there's typically about 12 candidates that really do rise to the top in these searches. And if you can get to 12 the whole run, most of the time it's somewhere in that 8 to 10 range, and then there's maybe some one-off. What that allows us to do at the front of that meeting is, quite frankly, not to talk about those candidates that no one has an interest in, but to really shape the conversation around those 15 or 18 candidates that are important. And normally what very quickly happens is those 3 or 4 are said, everybody says, absolutely, I want to interview them. You put them on the interview list, and then you go through that rest of that list. What we also so strongly suggest at that meeting, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail about it on the 30th phone call, is we suggest if there's someone that's not a part of those first 2 groups and you want to talk about them, we're going to talk about them. So as a long answer to your question, but I would say to you about 95% of the time it gets done in 2 hours because it's a very succinct model. We go through and do that and answer all those questions. I would say to you, don't schedule something 5 minutes after it's supposed to end on the 5th. Because sometimes it can go long if there's, some discrepancies between candidates, but most of the time it really does work fine.
Then, Laurie, if we need more time, we will use more time too. I think I agree with you. It may need just 2 hours, but if we need more time, we will have more time scheduled available.
Absolutely. That meeting is very critical.
Great, thank you.
Other questions?
And for those of us that will have travel commitments that day, we can pipe in by teleconference, correct?
Absolutely.
Anything else? Any other issue, Laurie, that you want to bring up, or?
No, the only emphasis I would make is that this search is not over till it's over. So if there is someone that you think we need to reach out to, don't hesitate to call me. Our team actually has a meeting every morning that says, who are we overlooking? And we really just continue to say, well, what about so-and-so and what about this person? So never too late to bring a name up. So if you want to reach out and give us a name, don't hesitate to do it.
Okay. If there are no questions for Laurie or other issue to bring up, I think we'll conclude the meeting. And I will wish everyone, first of all, I want to thank everyone for their participation today and for their time, and wish them happy 4th of July. And I think we'll adjourn the meeting now. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.